Hi, I'm Ginger from In Sheep's Clothing Yarn Shop in Torrington, Connecticut, here to welcome you to another episode of Focus on Fiber. Today I want to talk to you about a great finishing that you may not give too much thought to, and it's fringes. They can be super simple or very fancy. Let's give them a try. Okay, so these scarves right here, this is an example of just a very, very simple fringe. This happens to be a woven scarf. That was this type of yarn, and then it was warped with the ribbon yarn, which leaves you a ribbon fringe, and then they was simply tied, and you can't get much simpler than that. So I'm going to show you how to do one of these simple fringes, and then we'll go on to talking about some of these other ones that I have. This one here you can see is a beaded fringe. Again, just a very simple fringe, but the way that it's divided up like this and then beads added, it's very, very attractive. And then another fringe that I happen to like to use a lot with my weaving is called a twisted fringe. And as you can see, they're just a series of fringes that have been twisted. Quite often these will have knots at the end, but I chose to not, cut them off. But we're going to get right to just a regular twisted, regular fringe today. So I have a scarf here, knitted scarf, and it's naked without the fringe. So to get started, what you just need is you need to figure out how long you want to make your fringes. I tend to choose to make them a little on the longer side. You can always trim them up. It's better than them being too short, and as far as I'm concerned, and this is just a little personal pet peeve of mine, is I hate short, stubby fringes. They just look like you ran out of yarn. So we could either, what I do is I just kind of grab a card that's about the right size. I kind of figure out how long I want my fringe to be, and then you just wrap it around the card and then to cut them. So if we're going to do this, I think that would give me a little bit shorter fringe than I actually want. So I'm going to go the long ways on this. And then I'm just going to wrap around the card. And you can do a bunch of them. You can count as you go. You can count, a bunch of them. We need enough to do both ends. But I'm just going to today wrap like that, and there we go. Okay, and then I'm going to end the same place I started, so I have a tail here and a tail here, and I'm going to cut. And then at this end here, I'm just going to cut across. And there's my fringes. So what you really kind of want to think about is however long you want your fringe, you have to actually make it twice as long. So there's my fringe. That's what I want it to look like, but it's twice as long. Then the other thing that you have to figure out is how many you want to put along the edge of your scarf. And here we go. So what I do is you need a crochet hook. And you want to get one that's about, that will accommodate several strands of yarn. Now, that's a matter of personal preference, too, is how many fringes, how much thickness you want in your fringes, how many ends. So you can kind of eyeball that. So there's one strand, two, and don't forget when we fold this, we're going to be doubling up what we have. So let's try 4, like that, okay? And then I'm going to double it up. So that would be a fringe. Let's take that out of the way. So that would be a single fringe like that. That's a nice, generous, full fringe. Totally depends on how you want it to be. If we did half of that amount, let's find our fringes here. There's our 2. There's several strands in here, so I think I just split. There we go. Okay, so there's a little thinner fringe. And then what you could do is put more fringes. So you just have to kind of decide how you want them. Really thick and maybe fewer, or a little thinner and more. I'm going to opt for the thicker. There we go. So what you do is you divide it, you fold it in half like that. And then when I'm putting them on my scarf, what I'll do is I'll start from one end, do the other, and then work from the center, and then I fill in. So I'm going to go in one end here, and then what I do is I take my crochet hook and I get the group of fringes, I pull it through and I pull it up so I have this nice big loop here. Okay, then I take my tails and I pull those tails through the loop. And there we go. And then you pull it tight and there's a fringe. Okay, so now let's see, that was 4. So 1, 2, 3, we do 4 more. And just group them up nice and straight. There we go. Fold in half. Okay. There we go. Now I'll go to the other end. And I pull the loop through. I pull it up. Make sure you get all your ends there. And then I pull those tails through that loop. Pull it tight. There we go. Okay, that looks good. And then we'll take 4 more. Go. Fold that in half. And then I just find my center. And I eyeball it. Pull it through that loop. And let's tighten it up. Okay. So now what we want to do is just kind of fill in. So let's see, we have 3 left, so we just wind a few more up. This doesn't have to be, you know, it's just very simple. You can count as ahead, might be smarter, but I just kind of go, I have a full ball here, so I can just do however many I want. Okay, so I'm going to wrap. All right, so I know I have 3. So we'll wrap around a couple more times. I want enough to get, probably want at least 2 more in here. 3, 4. All right, let's see, that's 4. Just do a couple more. Okay, cut at this end. And then I'm going to cut the cut end of the card there. Okay, so now I have 3, so let's just take 1 more out of this section. There we go. Fold it in half. And now let's just put it into the center in between these. Now we could do, sometimes it's just a matter of eyeballing it too. You can always change your mind. We have plenty of yarn here to do what we want. So I'm just going to pull in here since right in the middle. And there we go. Let's just take a look. It's actually looking pretty good. All right, so we'll do another one. You know, you have the option if you really want it lush and really thick, we could have put 2 in between there. But just for time here. Okay, so there's 4. We got a couple extra. We have another side to do, so we can add to that one. Okay, so again, fold in half. Find our center between the 2 fringes that we have remaining. And pull that loop through. Pull up a little bit so we have enough room to pull those tails through. Pull the tail through. Make sure you catch them all. Oops. There we go. And then just tighten it up. And there we go. There's our fringes. They look beautiful. Now, the only other thing that you want to do at this point is we want to even off. You want to make sure that your fringes are evened off. So what I do, I'm big kind of eyeball the project person, so I just kind of fold it flat like this. Now what you can do, you can get really fancy, and you can put some piece of paper or something underneath it so you can really see your edges. Put a weight on top of it. You can put it on top of a rotary cutter and you can just cut them like that, just slice them across. Me, I just kind of, like I said, eyeball it a little bit, and I just want to even the ends off. So I'm just going to go across and even them off. There we go. Get those little ends off. The other, and let's just see how that looks. It looks pretty good to me. So there we go. We have our nice fringe on one side of our scarf. And then we can do the other side later. So that takes care of that. It really adds to it. I mean, look at that. Look at that scarf. Now it looks lovely and a little more finished, a little more elegant. So there's that scarf right there. Okay, and now I'm caught. There we go. Okay, just a little glitch there. Okay, so there we are. And now I want to show you twisted fringe, which I really, really love. I think it's a great finish. You can use it on wool. You can use it on pretty much anything you want. And this is what it looks like right there. And you can do twisted fringe on, you know, especially on woven, it's great, but you can even do it on a regular scarf. Like actually what I'll do is I'll show you on the other edge of this scarf, but I'm not going to do it with this yarn simply because it's very fuzzy, and it'll show up better on a smoother yarn. I can always take it off later, but just so that you get the idea how it works. So what I'll do is I'll take the other edge of this one. Now normally with a woven scarf, I already have ends from my weaving, and I just take those and I just they're already attached because they're the warp of your scarf. So, and I just twist those up. But with this, I'll be adding yarn and then doing the fringes. So what I'll do is just like we did before. Now the only thing is with twisted fringe, because you are twisting, you are going to lose some length. So you want to actually add extra to it to make a longer fringe, because there will be take up. There's also going to be the little knot. Now I have one size card, so we'll just make that one work for now, but just keep that in mind when you're making your own fringe. So again, we're going to wind some fringes. And you can make these as thick and thin as you want to. You can add as many ends as you'd like to. Let me just get a few done here so we don't have to do it again. Okay, there we go. And we'll cut. And again we cut. Okay, so now what we'll do is I'm going to do 4 ends again. But this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2, okay, let's see, and I'm going to put them in here like this and pull it through, and this one I'm going to do it right next to it and pull that through. There we go. Now this is actually going to make a very short little twisted cord because it really is much shorter than I usually do. Let's see, so I need something, my scissors, to weight it down. Now they also make this great little thing called a fringe twister that you can clamp onto the table, and it has these little alligator clips that clip onto your fringes like this, and then all you do is you turn, which makes the alligator clips turn, so it's twisting both your fringes at the same time. Then all you have to do is unclip and knot. It's great, but I don't happen to have one with me today. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2, these are going to be a little bit smaller cords. What you might want to do is just kind of moisten your fingers a little bit, and you're going to twist. And what I do, little secret here, is I count each time I twist it, so I'm counting. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15. Now you want to make sure that you twist it really, really tight, because when you go to, well, you'll see what happens, because it will untwist and you lose some of your twist. Now I'll take the other one, and this is important. You want to twist in the same direction. So again, I'm twisting twisting clockwise. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15. Okay, so then what I do is I take both those tails together, and I'm going to tie a little overhand knot nice and close to the end. And this is like magic. And I didn't catch both tails. Okay. Well, I guess that's good for now. Okay, and then what happens is you let it go. And look at that. What happens is it untwists on itself, and it creates this great little cord. Isn't that? I just love it. I think it's terrific. So now I'm going to we'll do it again just so you can see it again. Okay. So I'm going to count to 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15. And then I kind of pinch this and hold on to it so I don't lose all the twists I just finished putting in. And 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, 15. Okay, so again, I'm going to take those two together like that. Now you can see that it wants to kink, and that's good, because because all this extra twist is going to untwist when it wraps around each other. So that's why you have to make sure there's a lot of extra in there. So now what I'll do is just a nice little overhand knot and get it nice and close, and then let it go. There we go. And there's your twisted cord. Now what I like to do with my woven scarves, I have another little pet peeve of mine. I like the twisted cords, but I'm not really particularly fond of the little knots at the end. When you're working with cottons or ribbons or things like that, things that aren't going to felt, then you really have to keep those knots on, because otherwise they're going to, your twisted cord is just going to totally come undone. With wool, this is what I like so much about the wool, is that this particular scarf, when I wove it, it was very, very open, kind of gauzy, and it needed to be put in the water and to be fulled, slightly felted. Well, in the process of that, my cords, which I made pretty long, I just took them and I just kind of felted them in my hands, and I kept working at them to make sure they were nice and felted, because then I was able to just cut those little knots right off. And to me, I just happen to like that look better. It's just a little more polished looking. But like I said, with things that are not wool, you have to keep those knots on, otherwise those fringes, those cords are just going to come undone. So that's those kind of fringes. And then what you can also do to get an even little fancier type of fringe is, if you see with this one here, see how you have that pretty fancy, kind of looks like lace work. Now you can do that with or without the beads. And what I actually wanted to do, I'm not sure that you can see it on this lace here, on the ribbon so much. It might be a little harder to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some more fringe on this scarf, just some plain fringe. And then I'm going to show you what you can do to achieve this look of that lacy knotting. Okay, and I happen to have some extra fringes here. So what I'll do is I'll just take two at a time and just put them across, so you get a nice little reminder of how these fringes work. So I'm just going to go in across with my hook, pull them through, okay, loop, pull those through the loop, there you go. Now I have 4 in there. So I take 2 more and do this. And as a matter of fact, if you're noticing this pretty little scarf or a little shawlette actually, that's right here. And if you look at the fringes on that, we're not going to be able to do that one today, but those fringes they're a twisted fringe, but it's self-made. As you're knitting this piece, you knit all the way, and then you release some stitches down, and what happens is the stitches release and make these loops. And with this particular type of yarn, what it happened to do was almost make like a twisted cord or a twisted fringe. So it's kind of a little bonus. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple more, and then I'll show you this other cool fringe. And also, this is just another little fussy thing, but when you're doing the fringes, make sure you do them all on the same side, because there is one way when you look at them, the head of the knot, see how I have a nice little line going across on both sides? You want that to be, you know, going across that on the same side of your scarf, because on the opposite side, to me, that's the wrong side of the fringe. I mean, somebody might not agree with me, but that's, to me, the wrong side. And this is the right side. So I would always, when I'm putting my fringe on, just make sure that I put them on the same, from the same angle. Okay, so we'll do one more here, and then I'll show you how this other fringe works. Okay, so now what we're going to do, actually, I lied. We put one more because I've got a space in here. That's big space right there. Let's fill it in with another fringe. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, I have 4, so I'm going to take 2, and I kind of flatten them out so they, the 2 are next to each other, then these 2 are next to each other, and then I divide this one up. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is do a little overhand knot with those 2. There we go. So then I have that. And then I take these 2. Okay, like that. And now I'm going to do another overhand knot. And we kind of want to try to get this in about the same place. So we kind of pull it down and position it and tighten it up as we go. There we go. And then we take 2 more. Can you see what's happening here? And then we take 2 more. There we go. Okay. There we go. Sometimes you kind of play with it a little bit. But there we go. And we do this all the way across. So there's 2 more. So you're just kind of divvying them up. And then overhand. There we go. Now you can do as many rows of this as you want. It also, now also keep in mind that the more that you do of this, the longer your fringes have to be, because you're taking up space here. Now see, this one's a little bit on the longer side. So I probably want to tighten this one up just a touch. There we go. Good not to tighten them up too much until you're certain that they're in the right place. There we go. I think that's better. It kind of looks like macrame, huh? Okay, so now when I go to do the others, I'm going to, actually I probably should have started, all right, so these 2 I'm going to knot together like right here. So I'm going to do, obviously be doing 2 rows of this. There we go. And now I'll take those 2, you can get the idea by just looking at it, and then these 2. And then overhand, like that. And there we go. Whoops, this needs to go down a little further. But look how pretty that's coming out. And again, just lining up the next 2. It's very, you can just see it. It's just lining up and working. Overhand. Now, if you were doing beads, you wouldn't have to be putting the knots. You would just simply be putting like say like right here. Okay, there was that not done. So I would take these two. Now, I wouldn't probably be doing this single because you have to have, be able to get your bead through. But just say I had a big bead. I would take the bead and slide it up here right into place, and then do the same thing with the next one, and then continue across. And that's going to hold them in place. But right now, we'll just knot this up. And we're just about finished with this row. There we go. That one kind of fell into place pretty well. And then this end right here. There we go. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, just to make everything all nice, is we'll just kind of eyeball it and just kind of, there we go. Not too bad. And there you go. There's your little fancier type of fringe. Okay. But like I said, you probably would want to make this a little bit longer. You know, certainly add enough so that this gets taken up. And then you can just follow through with that. Okay? But there you go. You've got your fancy, fancy fringe. You've got your twisted fringe. And you've got your, I'm not going to call it plain Jane fringe, because does this look plain Jane to you? I don't think so. I think it looks very, very fancy, very pretty. And as you can see here, even with the ribbon, it makes a very pretty fringe. But just make sure, do yourself a favor, and make sure that your fringes are plenty long enough. The other reason too that you want to make sure that your fringes are long is that you can trim them off. Well, I hope that I've given you some inspiration to give one or even one of these different fringes a try. Thanks again for joining me, and please remember to keep a focus on fiber. See you the next time.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.